Hey y'all, it's Freeze Cracked here. Hey, I'm doing something completely different today and totally disorganized and weird, so go me. Basically what happened is yesterday I was trying to go through and reduce in size a little bit some stuff that I had that isn't particularly good stuff. But one of the things was this uh, piece of hornstone. It's like a sod or something piece of hornstone. Anyway, so I was reducing this, and this center part was all messed up and damaged. And because of that, when I was holding my support finger under it, when I hit a flake, um, the thing kind of exploded underneath my finger, and because of that, one of them cut my support finger. So I'm not napping until it gets a little better because it kept breaking open on me when I was trying to nap, even though I super glued it and everything. But I thought this was interesting to tell you because I had not thought about the fact that usually I trap the stuff under my support finger, and that's the last finger I cut. It doesn't get cut because I trapped a flake. But when the center of your rock is messed up, then it can do whatever it wants, and it got me. So anyway, just odds and ends. I thought this was interesting. This is a cobble of obsidian, and it came from Oregon. The interesting thing about these cobbles is these suckers on the outside are so hard that I took a rounded one and put it in the street and hit it, bipolared it, hit it real hard with a big piece of a big hammerstone on top, and it didn't do anything. So it's interesting the way that the weathering rind on these kind of rocks can make them really tough. And of course, you don't want to explode the thing when you get into it. This particular rock wouldn't be that hard to deal with because it's got pinched here, it's thinner. But anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. This is another thing that has nothing to do with anything, but I was messing around when I was reducing stuff the other day. This is a piece of High Ridge Burlington, but what I thought was interesting was just that you can see right here, I set a platform. This had a big ridge across over here and a big humpy area, and I set a platform very high just to braided it and put it on my leg pad and held the back end real good and hit downward, and of course it cut through that ridge, which I've been talking about online, but it ran all the way down to here, and I just thought that was so cool to get that long a flake off a downward strike going underneath the ridge, that I thought I'd show it to you. It's counterintuitive, but that stuff really works. Okay, so this is kind of interesting too, and I haven't really finished it, but what it is it was a thin nodule of flint, and it's called a Texas tortilla, from the Hill Country area. Anyway, so I was working on that I guess I was working on that after I did the other thing, and my finger kept messing up, so. But Shane online was asking, sent a note about when to use what flakes and talking about flaking off a continuous platform. You can see where that whole edge is lowered, and it's a continuous platform, and I do that quite a bit because mainly the reason is I'm lazy. In your initial reduction of stuff, a lot of times you don't want to waste a whole bunch of time in your initial reduction setting, isolated platforms, doing all kind of junk. So I just play the ball where it lies most of the time. And then I start doing, of course, this had an edge to it to start with, but I start doing these continuous platforms. The reason I'm able to get away with it is just a number of things, but one of them is just being able to hit where you want to hit. Because obviously, if you miss strike and you didn't have a platform sticking out there to help you get the strike where you want it, it makes a difference. But anyway, what he was asking about was spacing. What I would tell you on that is when you're doing your first phase where you want to do a bunch of thinning and initial reduction, then normally you might want to, I generally will hit a little bit further apart sometimes, and then you can go back in between and hit in between, and it tends to give you larger, wider removals and maybe a more rapid thinning. But you don't have to do it that way. You can go fairly close to each other, and your tendency when you go fairly close, just like when you're doing parallel flaking with pressure, is you tend to get narrower flakes that are longer. So if you've got a real wide piece and you're more interested in reaching across it to overlap your stuff, then you may want to put them closer together and stuff like that. But if you're just doing some flattening and that sort of thing, you can space them further apart and then come back in between them. Another thing, though, is as you get smaller, then you start at some point going, okay, well, what do I want my final point to look like? So obviously, if you're trying to do a Scots bluff or something, you start changing what you're doing. Paleo flaking, the old paleo flaking was very precise and shows a lot of skill and preparation and stuff. The later type flaking can be more random and just kind of does what it needed to do. So a lot depends as you get smaller on what you want your look to look like. So anyway, you can see this one hasn't been really prepared since the last set was taken off. And all I was doing was putting this on my leg and hitting it at a slight angle against the pad. I didn't want to take a whole bunch of this in. I just wanted to kind of sharpen the edge and just come into a particular pattern and have it kind of like I was going to leave this natural and leave that natural and have it be some kind of big weird knifey thing, scrapery thing. Speaking of knifey things and scrapery things, this is kind of interesting. I found this when I was going through some stuff in my garage yesterday, and I have no idea where I got it. I think it's old, it looks old, but then again, some of the people I've gotten stuff from just leave everything outside, and if it was in a bucket with a bunch of rock, then it could be modern. It has a little bit more of an old look to me for a couple of reasons, which I won't get into. I don't like to really necessarily tell people what the differences are between old and new. And I'm no expert on it either. But anyway, I thought it was kind of cool. So anyway, if I got this from you, feel free to notify me that, because I don't remember. Okay, some stuff that I've done. This is a preform that I was doing at a little semi-nap-in, and when I got into it, I saw this fossil stuff, and I decided that this would require more attention than I wanted to spend on it or thinking about it to reduce it further. So I just left it like this. The point that I wanted to make about this is kind of a typical edge where I've done some removals but have not trimmed deltas or done anything like that. One of the reasons I say this is on online forum, people post this kind of stuff all the time and say, look, I found a knife. Well, no, you didn't. You found a preform. And I'm going to get to the differences in a minute, but just, you can look at the edge and tell what has been done with the edge, and that's your clues. Anyway, here's another one. This was left like it is, but you can see this edge is more refined, and you're like, well, why is that? That's a preform, right? Well, no, it's a knife. And the reason I say it's a knife is because actually it's a knifey preform. I didn't do much with it. The reason that I stopped this one is you see this big old crack? That crack right there? This thing wasn't going to go anywhere, so I stopped it. But look at this. It's got this had gas pockets in it. This is basalt. And the gas pockets are lined with like calcium or something. I just thought that was pretty cool. Looks like a lizard egg or something. All right, moving right along. Here's another one. And you can see it's got a big old crack in it too. Got a big crack issue. So I don't know. I just tend to save these. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but anyway. Okay. This one will kind of credit to Administer online. He was saying the other day something about, had anybody ever artfully made a sinuous median ridge on a point? And like a day or two after he said that, I was working a rock that was real blocky and narrow at the tip and got wider, and it was really a messed up, weird little rock and very difficult to reduce and tough rock. So while I was doing it, and I was going to make a regular point, and I got to thinking, well, you know, he was talking about a sinuous median ridge. I'll just make a sinuous whole point. So I made this, and then I called it my howling coyote point. This I did the other day. I'm showing you this stuff for no particular reason. This was just a little bitty spall of black butter dacite, and I was goofing around with abo. And so this was hammerstone initial reduction, and then peg punching, and again the bias of the shape of the thing made me decide to just go ahead and make it into a little tang knife type thing. And they made some little tang knives. I mean, it's not an unheard of kind of thing. No particular reason showing you this. I'd like to, I should have gotten a flashlight illuminated from the back, but anyway, this is just obsidian. It's rainbow, but it doesn't have a lot of color left in it. The color was at a weird angle in the rock, so it wasn't of benefit, but I just goofing off making that the other day. This thing was a pain in the butt. This rock is called Pitkin, and it was from Arkansas, and it's a lot of the stuff is cracked up. This was solid, but it was a little, like a 1-inch thick blocky cobble, small and tough as nails. And the stuff on this has edges almost as bad as like rainy buttes or basalt or whatever. When you abrade it, the edge turns into a slippery knot that you can't really take flakes very well off of. So anyway, it's pretty weird. But I was kind of pleased that it turned out as well as it did, because it was a tough little rock, and I just had all kinds of, I don't know how long I took making it, too long, but anyway, Pitkin. And then this deal, I was kind of pleased with how this came out. Tim sent me some, Tim from Colorado sent me some a sample or two of Riley Black, and I hadn't, because I hadn't worked Riley Black before and hadn't looked at Riley Black, and I just wanted to see if it was like some of the other stuff that I knew from up that way, and it really isn't. I mean, it's obsidian-y, but not too annoyingly so, but it kind of almost has the look of black butter dacite. But anyway, it came out pretty good, I thought. Probably can't focus on it, but anyway. So that's that stuff, and now I've spent like 13.5 minutes, and I haven't even talked about all this stuff that's in front of you. I think I'll come back and talk about that, but actually these two videos kind of go together because of what I was talking about with knives and what is a knife and what isn't a knife. I'll be right back.